If you read the pink press, you would have noticed that some time ago we had a change in the membership of the Sensex. The Sensex is the major company whose valuation and weight, and its movements up and down really determine how the stock market is doing. And the big change, essentially is when JSW Steel, which is an old-fashioned steel maker, was replaced by, any ideas? Zomato. Okay, so here is a whole new company which has very few physical assets, but essentially has so much valuation that it was determined that it deserves a place in the Sensex itself, right? So when you start looking at the emergence of these kinds of digital platforms, and these are not things that we are unaware of, especially those much younger to me here in the hall. I think you're very, very familiar with the Zomatos and the Swiggies and their 10-minute delivery versions. You're also very familiar with Uber and Ola and the whole taxi ride-hailing platforms. You may be less familiar with urban company and how it also plays a role in, for example, getting people to come to your home and delivering various kinds of, it could be plumbing, but it could be physical massage as well, right? So all of these, so essentially, the evolution of these platforms is they certainly serve a very useful economic function, which is what is being rewarded partly by the market. The function, of course, is that they're aggregating, they're creating this matching function between demand and supply, and it makes life much simpler for people overall. However, as he pointed out, actually the vast majority of the value that's generated goes to the platform rather than to the people who are delivering that service, whether it's the taxi driver, whether it's the masseuse, whether it is the delivery person. Now, as soon as you start thinking about delivery persons, you will be able to empathize with some of the issues that arise in the context of what we call the gig economy, right? So at one level, when do we think about food delivery or something like that? When the weather is bad and we don't want to step out, right? Okay, that's just one example. But when that happens, who is experiencing that bad weather? Who is braving the heat, the cold, the whatever else, the rain, in order to get you that delivery, right? So that's one of the things to think about. And why are they in that business in the first place? Well, they're in that business because, again, this is the larger story of national failure. We have not been able to create meaningful jobs in the formal economy, especially over the last 11 years. That's me putting my political hat on, but no, it's matched by data. When the UPA was in power, and I'm with the Congress party, I used to be a Congress MP, we used to complain about jobless growth. Now what we have is what we call job loss growth. Actually, we see no jobs being created, more jobs essentially, formal jobs not being created, but actually fewer of them emerging. So when this sort of a situation is happening, when youth are trying to get some kind of employment, they're forced to look at this option as one of the only options available. Now, it's supposed to be something that's very flexible. You come in, and if you were, for example, if you were to think about the possibilities that it holds for homemakers, right? Once you've sent off the children and others to the workplace, to school and workplaces, then you have a few hours available, possibly during which you could be you could drive. You could do various other kinds of gig work at your own volition, right? And then you could be back home in time for for the rest of the day when the children and the family come back. So these sorts of possibilities exist. It opens up new horizons. However, what is the situation? What are the concerns that we have? Well, all of us are probably used to rating people, the drivers, for example.